Hi there, Brian here and welcome to today's video where I will be delving into the world of the Cuba Libre. Now the Cuba Libre is a rum based cocktail and it is one of my go-tos because it's a very simple cocktail which any bartender should be able to do no problem. So in this video we're going to be looking into the history of the drink, we're going to be making the drink and then we're going to be tasting the drink. So without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so the origins of the story. So the most widely believed origin is that it was invented in Havana shortly after the Spanish-American War. This is when Coca-Cola started to import their product into Cuba. So there was, some people said it was invented during, but Coca-Cola weren't imported into Cuba until shortly after the war. And this one ties in with the importation of Coca-Cola, so it kind of fits. So it was created shortly after the Spanish-American War in Havana, and apparently it got its name because a American soldier would go into a bar in Havana and order a rum with Coke and lime and would toast or Cuba Libre, which in Spanish is for a free Cuba. So that's the origins of, that's the most commonly believed origins. There are other ones that tie in Bacardi into it, but the Bacardi origin I saw was that apparently a 14-year-old boy happened to be at the creation of this drink and then later on he told the story to Bacardi and they published it. So that's a little bit shady, but the other story is a lot more believable. So that's how it came about, beginning of the shortly after the Spanish-American War. Okay, so that is the origins of the story, or the most commonly believed origin. Now, with that aside, there is a second part to the whole Cuba Libre story, or not so much story, but how the recipe is done, because there are two sides of this. One side will say a Cuba Libre is a rum and coke with a lime optional. Others will say the Cuba Libre has to have the lime for it to be a Cuba Libre. So within the origin story, the bloke did order a rum, coke and lime, or the Bacardi story is just a Bacardi and Coke. So that is maybe where the origin or the dispute comes from. Me myself personally, I am on the side that if it's a Cuba Libre, it has to have a bit of lime in there. It just elevates it, makes it a lot nicer than just a basic rum and Coke. And if it doesn't have it, it is just a basic rum and Coke. So, with that being said, let's get into making these drinks. Okay, so let's make the drinks. So we're going to make a Cuba Libre, but we're also going to make a rum and coke, just so we can have them side by side and taste them and see the difference, because some people say a Cuba Libre is just a rum and coke, but I disagree. So let's make the drinks. So we got highball glasses is what you're going to need for this drink, and we have two of them here with some ice chilling, and they're built in the glass, so we're going to get rid of that. So for this we are going to be doing the IBA recipe for Cuba Libre, which is 50 ml of your white rum. So 50 ml. Right, so that's your 50 ml of your white rum for each of the drinks if you were getting a double here in the UK. And now it's the IBA, say 10 ml of your lime juice, and I've got some fresh squeezed lime juice there. So that is your Cuba Libre. So now we're just going to add our Coke to make it a Cuba Libre to about halfway. Same with this. go. Now we're going to add some ice. Nice there. There we go. Right, and then you just want to add a straw down each. And for the Cuba Libre, we'll just give it a little bit of a lime on top. Okay, and there we have it, a rum and coke and a Cuba Libre. And there we have it. So as I say, your rum and coke and your Cuba Libre. Now some say it's pretty much the same drink. I personally say without the lime it's the rum and coke, with the lime it's a Cuba Libre. That's my preferred, how I like it. So let's just see what they taste like. Is there any difference? Do you notice it? Okay, let's give them a bit of a mix. Nice. Plain. So, makes so much difference, the lime juice. Yeah. So, there is the verdict on that. Is there a difference between a rum and coke and a Cuba Libre? Definitely. Lime juice does make the difference. Okay, so that is the IBA approved recipe, which you can find online. But when I was up in London being trained, my teacher had his own recipe. I don't know if his own personal one that he made, although I did read in histories, and you heard bits earlier about the bitters being added in earlier recipes, which is probably where he got it from. But I'm going to now do his recipe for a Cuba Libre, because when he did it for us up in London, everybody there was stunned by how different and how nice it was. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so now we're going to make a Cuba Libre in the same style that I was taught when I went to London by my teacher. His recipe, or wherever he got his recipe from, but the recipe he uses. And as he was a 5-star luxury cocktail barman before he became a teacher, it's quite a nice one. I was actually quite taken back by how nice it was, because I've had Cuba Libres, I like a Cuba Libre, but this one just is a little bit special. So first we're going to need is glassware. We've got a glass here with some ice chilling, so we're going to get rid ice because it is built in the glass cocktail. And for this we are going to be going straight to the actual lime, because rather than add lime juice, he added like half to 1 lime of lime segments. So we're going to do, there we go, we've got half a lime there, and then he muddled it into the glass. So I grab a muddler just from back here, and then we just give it a gentle muddle in the bottom of the glass. And there's a reason for also having it in here, because muddling it in like this also allows you to get some of that oils from the skin. So that is muddled in. Now we're going to start adding our alcohol. So for this we're going to be going 60 ml of our, we're using gold rum for this one, so 60 ml of our gold rum. And then we are going to be adding some Angostura bitters. So These bottles are a little bit spicy, so I will just get something to cover, otherwise it splashes everywhere. But 2 to 3 dashes of Angostura bitters. 1, 2, 3. I like 3 because I do like Angostura bitters. So there we go, that is the ingredients, and now we're going to top up to about halfway with cola. So there we go, yep. And now we are going to add some ice. So let's get a towel. And you don't want to add ice right to the top at first. We're going to add some ice and then we're going to give it a little stir and twizzle. Try and pull some of the lime up in the glass before adding more ice. Okay, see if we can get a few smaller bits to go on the top there. Nice. Right, so there we have a Cuba Libre. We're going to put some straws in there and just add a little bit of lime on top for garnish. And there we have my teacher's version of a Cuba Libre. Okay, so that is my teacher's version of a Cuba Libre. So it looks nice. It doesn't look a great deal different to a regular Cuba Libre, although it does look a little bit darker. So if you noticed on the Bacardi and Coke, versus the Cuba Libre, the Cuba Libre did look cloudier. This one kind of takes that away, back to what it should be. So let's have a taste. So much better than a regular Cuba Libre. The Angostura bitters just, well, you've got the aged rum for a start, so that adds a little bit more complexity to your cocktail, but the Angostura bitters really gives it that extra something I really like. The addition of Angostura bitters to a lot of cocktails is really nice. I do like the bitters. Yes, so there it is, an elevated Cuba Libre. Very, very nice. Okay, so that is the end of this video, and so that was the difference between rum and coke and a Cuba Libre. I say there is a difference. Some people still say a Cuba Libre is rum and coke and lime is optional. I say it's not. It makes it different to a rum and coke, and the elevated version is so much nicer. There are other elevated versions of this drink, but this is the one I was taught and this is the one I like. So, as that is the end of this video, I would like to say, as always, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Take care and goodbye.